Welcome, everybody. December 2021 is the second annual Food Matters Month in Pittsburgh, as proclaimed by Mayor Peduto and the City Council, Pittsburgh City Council, last week. Food Matters Month is a celebration of all the good work that's happening in the city towards reducing the amount of food that we waste. I'm Danko+Day, food planner for the city of Pittsburgh, and welcome to our first Food Matters panel featuring some of the people and organizations doing the work to rescue wasted food. As the proclamation said, the city of Pittsburgh is a national leader in food waste reduction and has goals to reduce food waste by 50% by 2030 and achieve zero hunger, reduce food waste and food losses along production and supply chains. We all know that we need food to live: air, water, and food. Without those three things, we cease to exist. In the US, up to 40% of the food that we grow is wasted, which is around 89,000 tons of food here in Pittsburgh. And when perfectly good food is wasted, that equals wasted resources: water, land, labor, energy, money. And when wasted food ends up in the landfill, it becomes an additional problem as it emits greenhouse gases, contributing to climate change. And at the same time, here in the city of Pittsburgh, we have an estimated 63,000 people experiencing food insecurity, meaning that there are people in Pittsburgh who don't have enough food to eat for a healthy, active life. Much of that wasted food is perfectly edible and could be redistributed to feed people. Some could be used to make soil amendments and grow more food. The EPA created the hierarchy of waste, with the most preferred being reduction of the amount of food that we waste by meal planning and eating our leftovers. The next is rescuing food to feed hungry people, and then recycling in a number of ways with the goal of keeping it out of the landfill. The members of our panel today are addressing each of these to reduce our wasted resources. Let me introduce the panel. So we have Marissa Fogel from 412 Food Rescue, Dylan Liu from Ecotone Renewables, Kurt Lindsay from the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, Chef Claudie Pierre from the E.A.T Initiative, Nettie Bordeaux-Ott from the Compost People, and Ebony Lunsford Evans from Out of the End, Inc. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. So let's start by having each of you take a few minutes to tell us about your work and why reducing food waste and wasted food is important to you. We can start with Marissa.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today. I joined the 412 Food Rescue team actually at the onset of the pandemic. So I joined about 2 weeks before. And so it's been incredible to be a part of this organization throughout this time. So as Shelley mentioned, in terms of reducing food waste, there's the concern of environmental impact always. But something that happened during the pandemic is we went in this country from 35 million folks being food insecure to 50 million folks being food insecure. So about 5 years ago, 412 Food Rescue saw this issue and decided that we wanted to provide a solution, not just for the city of Pittsburgh, but for cities across the country and internationally who are interested in conducting food rescue and diverting food away from landfills in their own communities. So we started 412 Food Rescue as a local initiative, and we started using Google Sheets to track all of those rescues and connect donors with nonprofit partners, and then connect those rescues with volunteers who are interested in moving that food from one place to the next. We quickly realized that this was not sustainable or scalable if we wanted to have the type of impact that we were interested in focusing on. So we worked on developing Food Rescue Hero, which is a technology platform that allows us to automate the work that we do in the context of food rescue. So this technology pairs donors with nonprofit partners And then there's a forward-facing or a user interface app that volunteers can download and get a notification on their phone that walks them step by step through the process. What this has allowed us to do is to dramatically scale and increase our ability to rescue food, as well as get more people involved in the initiative, whether that's donors, nonprofit partners, or volunteers. While our primary focus is diverting food away from the landfill, we also are really interested in making sure that the food that we are rescuing is healthy and is something that is going to add to the experience of those who are experiencing food insecurity. So most food banks deal with perishable food that can sit on a shelf for a period of time. So if the food is received and then it's not distributed immediately, it's not as much of a concern. But most of the food that comes through the 412 Food Rescue stream is actually perishable foods like fresh produce, cheese, meat, etc. And so when we realized that we were kind of adding this kind of additional nutritional component, we decided to expand more of our programs to help our recipients understand how to use that food. So another big component of how we're supporting folks in the context of this work is through cooking education. So we partnered over the last multiple years with Cooking Matters and Share Our Strength to deploy their cooking education curriculum into communities in and around Pittsburgh. And what that allows us to do is make sure that once the food does get into the home of the recipient, that they feel confident about how to apply utilizing that food in their home. Because often, the stuff that they're getting might not be something that they're familiar with. This is rescued food. It's not something that they go into the grocery store and pick for themselves. They may not have ever cooked kale before when they're used to utilizing spinach or something else. And so, we take that opportunity to help them understand not just how to prepare the food, but how to create a healthy nutritional balance so that when they're also getting food from the food bank, they have that kind of supplemental support in terms of processing and making meals for their families. To date, 412 Food Rescue has diverted 20 million pounds of food away from landfills. We have a network at this point of 12,000 volunteers, and we've done 90,000 rescues, which equates to 17 million meals and 11 million pounds of CO2 emissions mitigated through rescuing this food. I know that a lot of other folks on this call will probably talk to this more deeply. Dylan probably has a lot to say about this. But a lot of folks don't know that one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions is food waste rotting in a plastic bag and releasing methane gas. So it's very important to us to not just be tracking the amount of food that we're rescuing, but also the environmental impact of the work that we do.
Thanks, Marissa. So since you referenced Dylan, let's move to Dylan. So can you tell us a little bit about your work and why reducing food waste or wasted food is important to you?
Definitely, yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Dylan. I'm the CEO of Ecotone Renewables. And for all of you that aren't familiar with our work, we are a Swissvale-based startup company that operates a digester that's shown right here in my background. So you can see it's a pretty residential area, and that's kind of our goal with tackling food waste is right now, especially in urban areas, we don't have local solutions for sustainably processing food waste. And that very much is our focus. So within our digester system, and this one specifically, we're processing 10 tons of food waste annually. And that's sourced through a multitude of partnerships. One is with 412 Food Rescue. Another is with the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank with Kurt Lindsay. And then we also have a residential drop-off program where our neighbors right across the street, as well as other people in Pittsburgh, can get involved and actually drop off their food waste right outside our system. So again, as Marissa said, food waste is a humongous problem here in the US. And I think that something that we've definitely realized operating the system the past 2 years is that partnerships are definitely essential to this work, and there's no shortage of food waste. So I think establishing and continuing these partnerships is definitely important. And to answer your other question, Shelley, about kind of what got me involved in this is that I've always grown up hearing about water scarcity and insecurity from my family in Australia and Israel. And I think that kind of developed over time into just trying to work to support communities have access to basic human rights, which includes food, water, and electricity. And that's really what we're trying to do with this system as well, as we're actually collecting rainwater within the system, using it internally within it. And then we're also producing electricity from the food waste that we use internally. So right now we're using all the electricity we produce to run this system because we actually have a greenhouse on top. But we're actually looking to build a second system in March, also in Pittsburgh. And our goal with that is to provide excess energy to the local community and provide a Wi-Fi hotspot, phone charging stations, any sort of electric bike and vehicle charging. So definitely want to get and kind of integrate these multiple aspects because we know that food waste, plastic waste, energy, and water are all very much connected, but very happy to be a part of this group focused on food waste and excited to see what we can all do together.
Thanks, Dylan. Yeah, we don't really appreciate the scarcities as much as other countries. So we're pretty fortunate here. All right, how about Nettie? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me on the panel. I am one of the founders and owner of the Compost People. And I first got involved, interested in food waste and food insecurity as a dietitian and as a food service manager. And I found as a food service manager, there were times that you did have to wait, like there was food that we could no longer use. And working in nursing homes, there weren't, you couldn't use things as leftovers. It wasn't even an option. And this was years and years ago. And as I moved through my life, I realized I wanted to do something more than just help my individual patients that I saw. And I really wanted to make an impact on the environment. And as I learned more and more about composting, I realized not only could I take the food that couldn't be saved, but turn it into something that we could actually use to grow food and make something amazing. And I didn't even realize any of the impact of methane until I started getting into composting more. But for me, it was more trying to get something. Why put something in a landfill that's taking up space and putting off horrible things? Why not turn it into something great that's going to give us a better food product so that the people out there who are getting food are hopefully getting the best food that they can. So we actually pick up from people all over Pittsburgh, mostly suburban, a little bit in the city, and we take it to a processing site where they break it down. But my goal was to try to get the person who wanted to compost but wasn't willing, either didn't have the space or wasn't willing to try to take the time to figure out how to make it work. So this was basically to try to get anyone that could compost to compost. And part of what we do as far as the food waste part is I do try to send out some educational material to our customers to try to help them figure out ways to decrease their waste. We get it on the other end, so I don't have as much control. It's just a matter of hopefully getting them before they waste things they don't need to. That's it.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, we all have an evolution where we discover things in our lives little by little. And so regardless of where people are in this journey of learning about food waste and how not to waste food, there's a starting point for all of us. All right, Kurt, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank?
Sure. So I'm a Community Food Connections Coordinator is my title at the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank. And that was really my introduction to food waste, really understanding when you're working there, you can see the scale of it every day and the work that we're doing to prevent it. So that was kind of my introduction. And I've been with the Pittsburgh Food Bank for 5 years now. So along with my team, we work with over 300 food donors in the food industry all throughout Southwestern Pennsylvania. And our goal is to expand and to maintain our food rescue programs, both the retail store program and community table programs, which is designed for restaurants who want to donate food. We also work to match donors with local feeding agencies so that the food that would otherwise be wasted is instead donated to a local pantry, and they're providing that food resource so that they can provide it to the people that they serve, as well as providing it, in some cases, we pick up at our food bank as well and use that donated food in our distributions. So we also have recently had a goal of having produce make up 50% of all the food that we distribute. And that comes from understanding the needs of the people that we serve. We want to make sure that we're not just providing calories, but actual making sure that we're having nutrition in the forefront of what we're doing. So we've made some great progress towards that goal through some of these donation programs. And I'm also co-chair of the Sustainability Committee at the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, where we work to make sure that we're incorporating all the pillars of sustainability in all the work that we do. So food waste, why it's important to me at the obvious level for a food bank worker is that people are food insecure. We know over 21% of people in Pittsburgh don't necessarily know where their next meal is going to come from. So it's an obvious thing that we have to address. And we do have these solutions that we can continue to expand and grow our food donation program. The other part of it, not just the societal issues of food hunger, are like we said, the environmental issues. So all of the labor and all of the food, all of the water and all of the fertilizer that is used to resources too. Of course, we've discussed the methane emissions. 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions come from food waste. And the last part is the financial part that we discuss. We know that around about 35 of the 40% of all food produced in the US went to waste. In 2019, that was equal to $408 billion worth of value. So there's just so many more important things that we could be doing with that money, putting it to use like things like this to help rescue food.
Thanks, Kurt. All right, how about Chef Claudia Pierre? Tell us about yourself.
What's up, everybody? My name is Chef Claudia Pierre, and I am a food advocate. I am also a small business entrepreneur. I serve on the board for Pump, which advocates for a lot of stuff. Also, I'm on the board of the Food Policy Council, Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, which we are working on quite a few things around the food action plan. I am the founder of the E.A.T initiative, E.A.T, Empowerment, Awareness, and Training Initiative. It's our outreach arm. And I love what I heard so far. While everybody is doing a lot of things, I think our biggest component that we bring to the table is, you'll see my shirt, Black Love. Shout out to the Be Me cohort. Be Me is a group of people, minority and women-owned businesses and philanthropy that literally are changing the narrative around community. So we call it asset framing. And our leader is Travian Shorters, and he basically is promoting Black neighborhoods and, places that are usually disenfranchised and under-resourced by talking about them as assets instead of a deficit. So we're not saying, at-risk youth and, everything. Although it's true, we want to talk about the students and our communities. Yes, it is apartheid. So it's a scheduled, planned reason why, certain neighborhoods don't or are not afforded certain opportunities. So the E initiative is to empower, make people aware, and train people around food security. We come in and what we call is we're the last mile logistics group, right? We love the fact that people are saving food. We love the fact that people are, composting and turning food and really, allowing there not to be waste, but we have an authentic, genuine, organic relationship with the community. So what we are able to do is that Homewood and that Hill District and, that Swissvale, there's a lot of people who, don't look like the community that love to help allies, but they're not trusted, And so what we bring to the table is a level of trust. We've been able to service throughout the pandemic alone, over 130,000 hot meals with the help of the United Ways and 412 Food Rescues and a lot of different people. But we also are able to do what we call blessing boxes. We were able to, from a USDA grant and also from various different partners like the city of Pittsburgh and a lot of the people on this actual call, we were able to give away blessing boxes, which are, literally boxes of fresh produce. We do virtual classes, like I heard someone say, about the products that people don't usually get and they don't know how to, cut up a pineapple or use, squash. So we're able to really use our opportunity in the virtual space to really bless the people. So we call it blessing boxes. Last but not least, we've helped co-create, if you will, a food access network. Everybody on this call, we a lot of times hear about each other, know each other, but we have a lot of great efforts, but they're siloed. So the whole purpose of the Food Access Network, and Shelley has been an intricate part of that, as well as some of the other people on the call, we're actually bridging the gap between all the networks that already exist, all the reports that already exist. We've been poking and prodding our community for so long and getting, more and more information. Now it's time to apply that and leveraging relationship that we already have. So we use things like augmented reality. We use QR codes on all of our product. And I'm sharing these ideas so we all can actually do it as well. And I'm saying it publicly. And I've said this before, the E.A.T initiative believes with the help of the beautiful people that we serve, in addition to the science, the tech, the engineering, the arts, the math. So literally all the companies, all the nonprofits and for-profits, we believe that we can make, just with Pittsburgh right now, the first food secure city. We know the numbers. We know all the reasons why. But now with new leadership coming in, a new administration, we're going to hold them accountable. But we believe that they have the right thing in mind. We also have a lot of money coming down the pipeline, as far as infrastructure, as far as ARP. I mean, now is the time for us to be compelled to hold each other accountable, to really say, hey, we have last mile, we have urban agriculture, we have small businesses and food businesses, food adjacent businesses. We have the beautiful people that we can create the first food secure city. And so we created a digital platform to match our network, food access network, called foodsecurecity.com. Foodsecurecity.com will be launched in the early parts of next year. And we believe that this is how we're going to allow from 311 to the city to, all of these beautiful companies right here to use that 412 Food Rescue network and the food action plan from the PFPC and the composting. We now can work together as a unit versus the siloed effort. So that's what the E.A.T initiative is about, that last mile logistics, getting that food that we're saving, getting all the beautiful people together and actually getting that food into their hands. If we save 1 million pounds of food, but we still have to find a way to waste it, or people are not actually getting it, that's where we all can work together to make sure that we have access to fresh produce. And so, food secure city. We think that Pittsburgh could be the first one. And we have a lot of sister cities that we work with already that I believe will jump on and latch on. And this is scalable, it's sustainable, because we're not just talking about begging people and kissing butt for money. We're literally saying we have a revenue model and we have digital platforms and we have analytics that show the social determinants of health. And the last missing piece was connecting to the actual community and having their trust. And I think we got that now.
Thanks, Claudia. I thought I was going to be the first one to slip up with having to be censored.
It wasn't a slip, Freudian slip. It was just a, passionate moment. How about that?
Absolutely. It was great. Thank you so much. So Ebony, in your time, tell us a little bit about why reducing food waste and wasted food is important to you.
Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to know if Cloudy can hear like my insides jumping around, right now, because I was just like loving every single thing that you're about, the E initiative, everything. Like, I mean, I want to connect a lot more. So I'm just thankful for all of that because a lot of my mission is directly connected to exactly what everyone here is doing. So I'm just happy to hear all of that. So you don't want me to tell nothing about myself? You want me to just go right into what I think?
Talk about yourself. Tell us about yourself and
Okay, I don't want to say what I don't need to say, but first of all, I'm thankful to be here. Thank you so much. My name is Ebony Lunsford Evans, and I'm just a food advocate. Everything about me, I am an educator first and foremost. I'm a former teacher with Pittsburgh Public Schools, and so I've learned to transfer all of my educational skills into what I love most, and that is just being in community. And our organization, Out of the End, I am the founder, and we provide thriving skills to the community. One of the most important skills that we provide is how to grow food. This started right from my backyard with my own children and children in the community. And it just kind of took off, and with children in the community who would just never go away, I learned to use my skills as an educator to turn the back of my home into an outside classroom where I taught agriculture research skills, how to build greenhouses, and just how to sustain food. We also learned how to do basic medical skills, and we made a farming clothing line. We did a lot during that. And at the end of that first season, which was about more than 5 years ago, we grew over 30 different fruits and vegetables. And we had a small farmer's market in the back of my home where it allowed me to meet a lot more of my community, as well as the parents and everything of the youth that was coming around. Eventually, it grew out of my backyard into a neighborhood, community gardens, whoever would let me use space, whether it was friends or family, because these youth wouldn't go away. They kept coming back asking, could we have a program? It wasn't a program at the time, but I eventually did learn to turn it into a program, which was how Out of the End was started. Since then, I did start a business, a for-profit business, Farmer Girl E.A.T. I think somebody did just send me a message asking me that. So yes, I'm known in the community as Farmer Girl E.A.T. And I do have a business located right on the West End. It's a small produce store where we sell some locally grown produce here during the season and just some other really cool things. If you ever have a chance, please come out. But with Out of the End, we did acquire two community farms, we would say, through the Adopt-A-Lot process with the city. One of them is located in Manchester, and we're working with Grow Pittsburgh on a new garden grant where we've been really fortunate to grow and give away over 1,000 pounds of food this past season. And we have a lot of plans to continue to grow that community farm for next season. Another one is located right up in Sheridan, where that site is used as a teaching site for the community to learn to grow and scale and distribute food to some local organizations and businesses. We are just really wanting to bring the next round of farmers out of Pittsburgh. Like Chef Caldy said, we are really trying to be a food secure city. We want to teach all the way, just from youth, little babies. I go into learning centers and work with from 1 year to the oldest child is probably 4 or 5. And they learned how to grow. From the door, just learning about seeds, and using gross motor, fine motor skills to just learn to go and play in soil and things like that, because we want growing and being into agriculture to be just normal too, especially in the Black and Brown community. And we want to help teach them how to farm, and if they'd like to turn it into a business, or even if it's on the processing side, we teach them how to not waste food by learning how to process some things. If you're tired of, eating apples, well, let us teach you how to break it down into applesauce or making like apple juice and, things like that. And just with all different fruits and vegetables, we're teaching from I'm like 3 years old, just all the way up. We just want to bring the next round of at least Black and brown farmers out of Pennsylvania, and just make sure that our community understands that if you don't walk outside your house before you get into any vehicle and have access to fresh produce, then you possibly live in a food desert. And we want our community to be very, very secure by having fresh produce right when they walk out of their houses. And that, if that is creating as many as community farms, community gardens as possible, as well as we'll come to your house and build a garden right in your backyard, front porch, apartment building, whatever. We'll find ways to make sure that you're growing, and we'll help you sustain it as well as help you harvest it, whatever it is that you need. And whatever we can't do, we know that we can reach out to our the Food Access Network, including Chef Cloudy, and figure out other ways to break down food and just make sure that we are just not hungry. We compost and everything, and we even want to bring a composting business along with our future farmers.
Excellent. Maybe there'll be some connections made here today with that. Thanks, everybody. I just want to remind the audience that you can use the chat to put any questions in there to the panel. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask another question. I'll let Ebony go first this time. In your time doing your work with the community, what are some of the food waste successes and challenges that you've witnessed in Pittsburgh?
So let me make sure I'm clear with your question. What are some of the food waste and challenges that I've had in Pittsburgh?
I guess what are the successes and challenges that you've had?
So if I think about like the challenges first and foremost, at first, I didn't really know how to properly compost. And first and foremost, that was a challenge, because whenever I would, compost, or even think I was teaching composting correctly, and then the soil wouldn't break down in the right time, or I would have, food still just composting under something that was composted. I realized that I was incorrectly composting, and then that could bring along rodents and things like that. And so that was a challenge until I learned how to properly compost, and that's been successful, just learning how to properly compost and use proper composting bin, or just how to make composting bins, and just properly just make compost. And that's been very successful in our growing, because it comes from soil health is the most important.
Excellent. Yeah, Ebony, I wanted to mention also a comment that you made before, that you started teaching farming skills and growing skills to the kids that just wouldn't go away. I think any of us who have done urban agriculture can relate to that. Kids are just so curious, and they just stick around, they hang around. So yeah, put them to work, teach them some stuff. How about Kurt, do you want to answer the same question about successes and challenges that you've witnessed here in Pittsburgh?
Sure. So our retail store program has been a great success since it started in 2009. We've worked with several donors to rescue over 75 million pounds of food with growth in the program each year. That equates to about 62 million meals that would have otherwise gone to waste. In that same period, the community table program, which works with restaurants, has sourced 1.8 million pounds of food to our network. Also, that's mostly food that would have otherwise gone to waste. And then at our food bank specifically, not all of the food that we receive is necessarily going to make it to the point where it's safe to still distribute out and wholesome food to send to people. So when it doesn't meet our distribution standards, we have to dispose of it as well. And we worked with a number of outputs in order to make sure that all of our organic waste is going to either local farmers for like large scale composters like AgriCycle, and now more recently working with Ecotone Renewables to send organic waste to their biodigester on a weekly basis. And in terms of challenges, in terms of like our challenges for our food rescue programs to work effectively, we've just found that rural areas can be a little bit more difficult to work with. And that's simply because there's sparse populations, there's limited availability of these pantries and volunteers to work with. So we have had some great success with programs like with working with sheets in rural areas, but it's just a little bit more difficult to create successful programs there. And then with our food rescue programs with restaurants, most all the grocery stores in southwestern Pennsylvania are donating through our network or others, but restaurants is a little bit more of a challenge based on their limited ability to participate, and also agencies. Most agencies are feeding, sourcing food that they can send somebody home with. Less agencies are actually able to take in that prepared foods and serve people on site. So that's some of the, the limited resources that we have to work with, and that makes it a little bit harder to get food donations from like food service providers and restaurants.
All right, let's see, Nettie, why don't you tell us about some challenges you've experienced? Thanks, Kurt.
Our biggest challenge is more that we don't have any input on what our customers are wasting. So it's more of a, from our point of view, it's more of a education beforehand issue. We can't, I mean, unless the bags break open as we're dropping them off, we can't even see what they have in there, although we do check to make sure that it's not contaminated. But for us, it's more of like a starting from an educational point of view at the beginning.
Education is important. Yep. All right, Dylan.
I think one of the biggest successes on our end that I've noticed is with our fertilizer testing. So from our digester here, we're producing a liquid and organic fertilizer. And for the past 2 years, we've been doing a ton of testing with it, not only just to improve just local plant yields and crop yields, but also to improve long-term soil health, as Ebony mentioned, which is really important. And so I think the best example of that is with our partnership with Sheridan Orchards in East Liberty. And that specific area is an area of food insecurity. And we've donated over 200 gallons of liquid fertilizer to the farm over the past 2 years. And last year that helped them produce their best harvest to date, which was over 600 pounds of fresh produce, all of which is donated to local community members. So I think just, again, trying to improve long-term soil health and support local agriculture is definitely ways that I've noticed some really impactful successes over the past 2 years.
Great, thanks. Marissa?
Yeah, so I can talk about some of the challenges and some of the ways that we're responding to those challenges, but even though we have possible kind of ideas about how to work through these things, kind of to Claudie's point, I think working together to figure out how to maximize kind of that impact and try to figure out how to take replicatable programs and bring them into, other communities, other organizations who are doing similar work is really important. So I think for us, the 3 biggest challenges that we see are convenience, and volunteer recruitment. So just making sure that we have enough people to actually execute the work to move the food. And then finally dealing with large scale donations. So starting with convenience, one of the things that became incredibly apparent during the pandemic was that there were folks who were homebound and unable to get to food distribution centers like local churches, their nonprofit organizations, community centers to pick up the food. Whereas there were folks who during the pandemic were able to go on Amazon and order food from Whole Foods and have it delivered to their door in 2 hours. And so for us, we feel like that inequity, continues to compound the issue of food insecurity. It's not just about, again, to Claudia's point about SDOH, it's not just about one factor. Often if somebody's experiencing food insecurity, there's comorbidity within that, right? So they might also be experiencing transportation issues as well. So during the pandemic, we launched a program called Home Delivery, where we partner with food makers. So this is not donated food. These are restaurants who are preparing food that then utilizes the 412 Food Rescue volunteer network to bring that food directly to the homes of the individuals that need it. Now, that program is piloted and launched, but, in order for it to be truly effective, we need more participation in terms of both nonprofits who are interested in connecting us with individuals who are in need of this type of home delivery, and as well, more restaurants who are interested in participating in programs like this. So trying to figure out how to make those connections to identify those in need so that this convenience can become available to as many people as possible is one of our goals in the coming years. In terms of volunteer recruitment, we have a lot of folks who are really interested and excited to participate in 412 Food Rescue. But as we expand into collar counties and, we start doing work in Fayette, Beaver, Washington County, Westmoreland, Butler, we want to make sure that, the folks who are excited to get involved, the donors who are interested in getting involved in donating food in those areas have the proper support that they need to move the food. So, for example, we have Giant Eagles in Washington County who might say, look, we have hundreds of pounds of food to donate every week, but we don't have yet the volunteer that is able to move that food. So continuing to go into those communities and put our boots on the ground and working with folks there to help them understand that, getting involved in a program like 412 Food Rescue can be both very personally fulfilling and impactful for the community. And then finally, one of our biggest challenges is as we continue to scale and grow our operations, as I don't believe I mentioned this when the rest of the participants were on the call, but I was mentioning to Dylan earlier, just that I don't see the trucks in the picture there in the parking lot. So we have a fleet of vehicles that we use to move larger scale donations. Those donations are coming primarily from more industrial food distributors like Sysco or Gordon Food Service. A lot of our nonprofit partners don't have the capacity to process, 60 pounds of cabbage or 10 cases of 50 pounds of beef. They have smaller kitchens, or they're utilizing a volunteer workforce to get the food from the distribution center into the hands of the folks that need it. And so we're trying to always find more ways to process and break down these larger scale donations so that they're more accessible to the folks who are receiving them. So one of the ways that we responded to this was by creating the Good Food Project, which is our program based out of Millvale, where we receive donations that come in, those large scale donations from Sysco, Gordon Food Service, et cetera. And then our chef is on site to receive that food. He builds a menu around whatever he receives. He's processing and cooking that food and then packaging it into a 3-compartment frozen meal that then goes to the nonprofit partner in that way. So what that's allowed us to do is take those larger scale donations and create, going back to convenience, creating a convenient, healthy meal that's super accessible to the folks who are receiving it, which also helps, with, families who might have single parents who work multiple jobs, don't necessarily have the time to always be cooking for their family. So they have the ability to reach into the freezer and grab something. As well, we have a partnership with HACP, where we do, it's a mobile unit where this also takes place in Millvale, where we take those larger scale donations and break them down into grocery bags. And those grocery bags end up being delivered back to those HACP sites, where resident site leads or HACP staff are hand delivering those bags to the recipients directly on their doorstep. Now, these efforts are, kind of, from our perspective, a drop in the bucket in that, we can say, well, we create 2,000 meals a week out of the Good Food Project, or we're distributing 280 grocery bags a day out of the grocery bagging program, but there's the opportunity to do so much more. And, recruiting and getting other kitchens and, individuals and folks who have access to commercial kitchens and resources like this is really important, so that we can take programs like this and create replicatable models so that other folks can deploy these in their communities. So the nonprofits who maybe previously weren't able to receive those large scale donations now can, in partnership with a commercial kitchen that's interested and willing to kind of take that extra step to process that food and get it back out into the community.
Yeah, that's very exciting to see what's coming out of the Good Food Projects. Claudia, how about you? Can you tell us about some successes and challenges that you've had?
I think the funniest thing about this panel is I'm looking at some of the people on here, and we agree on a couple of things, and I may have to disagree with some things. Believe it or not, these challenges are actually all opportunities. And as crazy as it sounds, we literally have the answers to the problems that we have, but we don't talk. We just don't talk. It could be a personal issue. It could be all types of different crap that we go through internally. And there's a grant system right now, especially in Pittsburgh with all the philanthropy, that literally pits us against each other to get a couple of $1,000s. And it's just like, screw that. We need to have a revenue model. We need to be able to utilize all of the resources that are coming in to create a food fund. Like, I know we kicked around the idea of a food justice fund. We kicked around ideas of, like, I can't be going to war or trying to tell someone, I do this better than 412, or I do this better than, that's not what it's about. I love them. I want to work with everyone on this call to make sure that we are creating a food secure city. The other thing I think is a challenge, but it's an opportunity with the amount of money that's coming down right now. We cannot afford to have people in these neighborhoods who are living below a poverty level coming to a meeting like this, 2 hours, right? I'm fortunate enough that I am a chef. I have small business. I will fight tooth and nail. You guys all know me to run around and try to make money catering, and I consult and I do things, and I'm still broke. However, I know how to get to the bag. You know what I mean? I'm blessed. There's a lot of people we ask to get on these calls, a lot of people in the community that we need their input, and we don't pay them. We don't compensate them. They got to be all over the place. And guess what? They don't have the luxury to be giving information for free all the time. They need help. They don't have transportation. This is my family, my friends. And then even like, as much as I love the environment, I'm on a panel discussion about a month ago about, the plastic, single-use plastic ban. And let's talk about it. Like, I love that idea, right? Let's make sure we're all on the same page that we love the environment, but who does it affect the most? Poor people, or people that don't have the same resources. And so I hate to say this, but we got to call each other out and hold each other accountable. That doesn't mean we hate each other. That don't mean we got to fight to get $10,000 for grant money. It means that we come together and say, hey, I can fill this gap for you. You can fill this gap for me. You got this report. I got that report. Your report ain't better than mine. That's not how it goes. It's about saying, hey, you got this tech. I got this tech. I know the people. You got the money. Let's freaking work together. That's why I don't care about anyone's personal feelings. I come in guns blazing. I'm like, how are you going to solve this? How do we get this together? How do we create a food secure city? You don't like so-and-so, or you and so-and-so used to date. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's a small freaking world. Let's get this crap done. And this is why I love this, right? We need to really utilize all the people that are here, near and far, to say, hey, we're not working towards a solution. And I love it. My biggest challenge is making sure people get compensated for the time that they're putting into doing this work, right? A lot of the small businesses, a lot of the people that are around urban agriculture, oh my gosh, I get pissed when I find out how much they make. I get pissed, you know what I mean? And we gotta get pissed. We can't be nice. We gotta get pissed about it. We gotta get pissed about servers and people working in the industry, right? And cooks making the bare minimum. We got to talk about wage. We got to talk about, like you said, transfer. Marissa said, you know, that we're literally transforming food into food for the community. No, we got to pay people to do that. And we got to utilize all the skilled people. And so all I know is the challenge is the money is here. The philanthropy is here. All the ideas are here. Let's start to say, hey, you know what? We're connecting dots. We're creating a food secure city. No more it is, oh, well, so-and-so applied for this grant and I did too, and I don't know, and I don't want to work. I don't want to hear none of that crap anymore. And that's the challenge that I feel. The politics and the semantics and all the other ticks that people got going on, I think that this is where we start to seriously look at revenue models, look at using nonprofit money as seed money. We have composting, we have waste, we're saving. We need to tap into our public school system, which is probably one of the craziest money freaking procurement. And there's all types of things happening right now that I think that, you know, I'm sorry for getting hyped up, but I love this. I love, you know, getting people riled up. I don't care. Like, we got all the answers right here, and we need to use it and educate one another and leverage the money that's coming down, pay our people to be here on this call, because no one can take 2 hours in the middle of the day if you're scratching and running around, scratching and clawing to make ends meet. So that's where I'm coming at
right now. Man,
you know what I mean? I can't play around no more, Eb. I'm sorry, I can't.
Thank you, church.
You know?
Thank you.
No more jokes.
Nobody's mad, Claudia. You're awesome. Thank
Sorry,
you so
God.
much. Speaking of the school district, these Pittsburgh Public Schools just passed the Good Food Purchasing Program October, actually, I believe. They passed that, the board passed it. So that's coming up. That's good. That will help a lot, I think, have a big impact. But we're running out of time, panel, and this has been so amazing. But I guess we'll just have one final question. I'm going to make sure that anyone who wants to join the Food Access Network that I think Claudia has mentioned and Ebony mentioned, Farmer Girl Lab mentioned, it's an informal network of food access providers. It includes people who are like with the food bank or just on their own, providing, picking up boxes at the food pantry for their neighbors. So the whole gamut. And we meet on a monthly basis. We also have a listserv so we can communicate, and it's just real basic networking. You say one thing that you have and one thing that you need, and we go around the room, the virtual room. So if you want to join, we'll have some information in the notes after this. But I guess we'll close it out with one final question, a call to action, if you will. If you guys could talk about how people viewing this discussion can immediately take action in their communities. We'll start with Dylan.
So if any of you are in the Swissvale area or close by, one way you can definitely get involved in our work is signing up for our food drop-off program. It is completely donation-based, so something we definitely focus on is accessibility. A lot of people don't have money to pay for waste hauling services or any additional costs, so it's completely donation-based. If you can't afford it but want to get involved, we very much welcome you. And we also have a plastic and glass reuse program. You see the tiny little bins behind me as well. So if you have plastic and glass containers, you can clean them off and drop them off there. I know we're focused on food waste here, but plastic and glass waste are very much tied to that. And I think just a call to action, I kind of answered one of the questions in the chat here, but I would say just try to develop one sustainable habit regarding your food waste and food consumption. whether that's shopping locally, trying to purchase local produce, going to the supermarket with a shopping list, and just trying to make just that one small habit, because that's really how it starts. Is it's this humongous problem and we're not going to solve it tomorrow, but if we each take one step, that gets us that much closer to it.
Thanks. Yeah, everything is definitely connected. Farmer Girl Lab, why don't you tell us how people can get involved in the work that you do?
Through our organization, like I said, we want to bring about the next farmers out of Pittsburgh. And so we want this to be free. We don't want our community from youth to have to wait till they're adults to get any type of agriculture education. We don't want them to have to pay to go to school to learn how to grow a tomato. We want them to just, learn, it just be normal. And so through our programming, we want to keep it free. And so if you're interested in donating to our program, you can go to our website, Out of the End Inc., and make a small donation. We do small fundraisers every month to just try to keep things free for the community. And I'm with, was that Dylan? Just maybe a small call to action with, if you can just think of one way to provide sustainability in your family or even in your community. And if that's just to learn to grow tomatoes next season, do that. I mean, although I operate a business right here on the West End, I need to be sustained. Please support small businesses. But I couldn't care less if you don't buy one piece of produce off of me, if you got it growing in your backyard, or if you can walk out of your house to your community, into your community garden and eat fresh on a daily basis. That would help decrease the social determinants of health, because that's exactly what we're trying to do here.
Thanks, Eb. Nettie, call to action.
My call to action, I agree with the trying to do something small so that you individually are not making an impact on the waste. One of the things, I know the shopping with the grocery list. The other thing I would definitely bring up, especially during the holiday or as people are starting to gather again, is planning accordingly. Number one, no one eats as much as you ever prepare for something like that. Number two, putting a timer or a song on your playlist or something, so you're not wasting that food because it sat out so long that it's gone bad, that you then are having to waste it or no one else can use it. So coming up with something like that, or times where you feed one thing and then a little bit later put something else out so that you can put that food away so it doesn't go bad. Or if you are going to have leftovers, leaving even little containers. They make nice containers, or tell people to bring containers so that people can take that food home so it's not getting wasted. And it's definitely not putting it in the garbage. If you can't compost in your backyard, there's a lot of different services, but trying to make sure you're not getting to the point where you have to throw away large amounts of anything, or look for, local accesses where you can maybe donate things, but picking up food to where it is around us so that the people around here don't have to waste what they've created either.
That was one of the things. There's no shame in taking baggies to a potluck or to some event that you're going to and take some of the food home with you. I learned that at Chatham's Food Studies program, where I got my master's. All right, Kurt, how about a call to action from you?
Sure. So, donating food to the food bank, excess food, that's a big one. Composting either in your own home, or a lot of people don't have access to compost in their own home, whether it's like live in an apartment or they have limited space. So while individual actions are really important, it's also really important that we advocate for compost pickup programs, and that those are subsidized through state, local, federal taxes, whatever it takes, because it's an important enough issue to remove food waste. It's too important to have it be left up to only people who can afford to do so. I would also just advocate for people to, we live in sort of this bubble of convenience where It's easy for people to just go get the food at a grocery store, and then if they don't use it, throw it out, and they don't really see all of the negative effects that happen. They don't see like that you're wasting the farmer's labor, or you're wasting the water resources, or on the other end of it, you're not seeing like when you throw something away, it doesn't go away, it doesn't disappear. So just trying to encourage people to reestablish that connection, meet your local farmers, meet somebody who you're getting your food from, and try to just have a better understanding of the waste system, because it's convenient for people right now, but that's not necessarily a good thing. I think we need to sort of pop that bubble of convenience and get back down to reality and understand that these throwing food away does have these really important negative effects that we need to be addressing.
Thanks. Very true. All right, Claudia.
I'm going to go a whole different direction. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do at home because you guys gave a lot of good advice. All I know is we need to talk. We need to communicate. We need to leverage all the freaking data that we have. Do y'all hear me? I want y'all to be 100% listening. All the data and all the savings and all that, we need to connect. We need to have data sovereignty. We need to understand one another. We need to know what each other is doing so we can actually have a food secure city. We can keep our own identities. It doesn't have to be under one person's umbrella. You can still be whoever you want to be under one ecosystem, PFPC, the city. Why we don't talk and forget about the city and the county. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. You know what I mean? All I know is we have to talk to each other. We have to leverage information, analytics, and I am putting everybody on notice right now. We're holding each other accountable. I want you to hold me accountable, and I'm going to look you in the eye. And every time I see something, you put out a flyer, whatever the case may be, we're going to start holding each other accountable for the work that you say you're doing. You got to do it. And you got to include the community and pay the community. The community deserves, they can't be on a 2-hour call. They don't have, matter of fact, I'm going to take it a step further. We're asking all these nonprofits and philanthropy for money. They don't even want to give you money to market or to really show what you're doing. So now you're asking for operations, and guess what? You still have to spend money to actually make sure that you show people what you're doing. We don't have that money. We can't even ask for it. They're not going to give it to you. They're going to say, hey, here's for employees, here's for food, and then you got to figure out all the ancillary, all the peripheral cost. That's not fair. We need to come in. We need to leverage. If you have a USDA, if you have a freaking group of people, a partnership that you can pour in, look around the table right now, who isn't here that's supposed to be here, and add them to the list and tell them you need to be here. And if you used to date and you don't like each other because of emails, I don't care. I don't care because it's not about you. All right. And that's my little tidbit of information that I want to share as a best practice. I'm saying right now, break the silos. We need to create a food secure city that will be scalable. People are going to look at Pittsburgh. I guarantee you in the next year, they're going to look and say, Pittsburgh is a model. We have the science, we have the tech, we have the analytics, we have the people, we have the art. So I'm sorry, sometimes I go crazy, but this is what we need to do. So yes, do something small at home for the holiday. I want you to do that, but now you need to hold each other accountable and call each other and talk to each other and text each other. If you're composting and you're growing food, we need to connect. If I'm saving food and you have the connection to the community, we need to connect. It's not a competition anymore. We all need to go after stuff collectively. And that's what I got. Sorry, guys. Sorry for getting hyped.
Totally good, Claudia. Thanks so much. And I can vouch for the fact that he will look at you for sure. So, all right, Marissa, I know we're a little over time, but why don't you wrap it up and tell us what your call to action is?
Yeah, I'll just keep it super small, but for us, the biggest way or our biggest call to action right now is if you haven't yet, please download the app and sign up to do home deliveries. You can make a huge difference in getting a meal to somebody who doesn't have family around them, who can't leave their home, who's homebound. And if it takes 25 minutes out of your day. You can do it without a car. You can use public transportation. You can do it on a bike. Some of our rescues are even walking distance. So please download the app and turn your notifications on, especially around this holiday season. And if you're looking for something to do with your family that doesn't cost anything to you, this is a great way to bring family together. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you all of our panelists. Food really does matter. So plan your meals and compost and rescue and save and grow and be well. Have a great holiday, everybody. Thanks so much.